Jason Michaelson. I'm a senior developer here. I'm in the same place where you guys, I was in the same place that you guys are right now, about 16, 17 months ago. Started in August of 23. I'm a jack of many, many trades, many, many languages, many environments. I'll do pretty much whatever, and we'll move on from there. Other than that, who am I? These are the fastest things on Earth. Cheetah, an airplane, light, and an introvert giving a presentation. That's me. That's how fast I go. If I'm going too fast for you, don't hesitate to slow me down. I will not take offense at it, but there we go. So, first thing, what is a plugin? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? 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 Plugin is something that Nagios runs to do a test or check of something. That was IT. That was their fault. That's something that they have on my view worker that just does that. To do something. Out of the box, some of the examples that you will see are most likely check NCPA. It's a Python script that interfaces with the NCPA agent on a server, Linux, Windows, Mac, many different environments to provide checks on that system. Other ones that you may see are these check _blah blah blah ps1.python scripts. Those interface with Windows via SSH to do various things. You'll see those as you guys work into XI more and more. When you get into things, check EMO8, email, Exchange server, files. That's all sorts of check commands that you can do. But there's more than that, or at least there can be if you're so inclined. Just going to go as a quick example outside of the box. All those check EM08s are for a EM08 environmental monitor. That's what the EM is for. We've got a few of them laying around the office if you're so inclined to go check them. Each one of those comes out of a specific C source file. And the commands are set up, the check commands are set up to have different options depending on what you want to check. The short story is, if you can communicate with it somehow over the network, possibly even over serial ports if you're so inclined, you can monitor it. You can test it, you can check it, you can report on what it's doing. These plugins, I believe, all work by connecting to a web server on the sensor and doing their thing. Really, they're really very simple. There's a few things that they have to do. You have to set an exit status. A Unix process return code, exit from Bash, exit from Python, whatever. One of three values. Zero means that the check passed completely, it's okay. If you return a 1, Nagios will treat it as it's in warning state. 2, it's in critical, and 3, it's unknown. The warning and the unknown are really optional. You don't have to provide those. They're handy to have in cases of a server, and you're monitoring the CPU load on a server, and at 80%, you want to say, okay, you're starting to peg that CPU, but at 95, it's going to go critical. You can get by without the warning, but you want to know when it's critical. Secondly, they should also output a useful message about the status. Just showing the response code, the exit code, is useful, but why did we get that code? In the case of an OK, great, your CPU usage was 10%. You'll see that. If you set your warning threshold to 75%, you want to see what the source of the data that generated, that the status was. A couple of other things. When these plugins get run, they will be run as the Nagios user on the XI server or on the core server. That has some interesting side effects in that one of the plugins the wizard that I wrote when I was in you guys' shoes a year ago was to monitor the smart data from a hard drive or an SSD. And the problem with that is the Nagios user can't run the smart control utility to do that. It has to be run as, that utility has to be run as root, and anything that accesses that aspect of the hard drive has to be run as root. So bear that in mind. There are ways to work around that. You install your plugin script or program as a set UID program so it runs as the user you want it to. You can set UID the program to root. You could add permissions to set UID the underlying program like smart control that you have to run as root and make it executable by the Nagios group. But that's a really big thing to bear in mind. Your plugins can be written in any language. There are jokes around here that thou shalt not write a plugin in Perl. If you've ever done anything with Perl, you probably know why. It's powerful, but it can be ugly. There are some people over in the development suite that have religious battles about it. we don't have to get into that. But your plugins get installed into user local Nagios live exec. Trying to think if there's anything else I need to mention there. Obviously, if it's written in a language that has to be compiled, compile it. We run scripts, we run Python programs, we run PHP programs if that's your thing. You can't run a C program from the command line easily. Just by executing the .c file. So now I'm going to give you sort of a live demo on this. And by a sort of live demo, I mean make sure that you run, when you're giving a live demo, make sure that you're confident in what you're giving on it, because you don't want things like an IT window to pop up on your screen in the middle of your demo, which, given that it's happening about every 5 minutes, it'll be due as we're walking through the code. So we'll just pay attention for that. Let's see, there's my code window. This is a simple script, a plugin script that I put together to monitor the number of hops, network hops, routers between the XI server and some other server. And this is a bash script. I take the command line options that come in, host, critical warning, and we'll talk about these later as we're configuring actually using the plugin in a host check or a service check. And I do some little fudging around with the output of the tracer. I command the backticks to catch the output and just capture how many lines I've got left there. That's a good number of how many routers are in between. Make comparisons, output appropriate messages. If the number of hops is greater than the critical number, say that it's critical. Say the number of hops. The pipe in each one of those output lines will delimit back to Nagios what it's going to put in the status for the host or the service that you're checking. This is otherwise ignored. This will get displayed on the web pages. We'll see that in a second. Any questions on that? And again, in the critical state, we exit 2. In a warning state, we exit 1. Otherwise, we exit 0. But we did put in an output to say, hey, there were 2 hops. Now, when I configured this, I configured my Google, my check to google.com. As I was writing this up yesterday, it was 18 hops from my XI server over to Google. I decided that 18 was going to be my warning threshold, even though it's the typical for it. Obviously, there's some routing changes that went on the internet today because a few minutes ago, 3 minutes ago, it took me 25 hops to get to Google, and so I'm calling that critical. This is just an example, you know. On the flip side, 5.1 is, if you look at all your, when you guys get into your view workers, that's our internal router to get to the outside world. That's your default gateway for everything. Hey, look, when you're not in PowerPoint, that doesn't show up. And if you're monitoring your own network and doing something like this, your default gateway better be 1 hop away from you. If it's not, you know, we're talking about possible intrusions, other network things, somebody misconfigured the network. Not necessarily in that order of severity, but it gives you a heads up that, hey, something's going on the network, we might want to look at that. That's just a quick example of stuff that you can monitor. The way I set this up, these commands up, was in the commands in the core configuration manager. You can find that under, to set up the commands, under the configuration, core configuration manager. I wish that was a touchscreen coming back to me. And then you go into commands. And for me, I created this little check network hops command to be executed, and we'll have a look at it. This is the name that it appears to you, the user, or whoever the user, as when configuring a host or service check. This is the command line. $user1 is basically the path to, ends up resolving to the path to where you put that your check script. And in this case, it's always that user local Nagios line exec. Name of the script, capital H for host address. The capital H was that parameter that we put in here for the host address. Anything that gets passed in gets enclosed in $signs. And then arg1 is the first argument that goes in. This is a check command, save it, and then we can add it in as an actual check later. This is the configuration for my local gateway. Common setting is host name, IP address. They're one and the same for this purpose. The check network hops command, it tells you what it's going to use. And then arg1 is going to be substituted in for that. The -C is for critical, 3 hops. -W for warning, 2 hops. We already saw that window. My Google configuration. I wanted that to show up as Google and not google.com. And like I said, I changed it, the warning level to 10 from 25, or from 18. But a critical 25, warning 10. Those can also be flipped around and go the other way if you want. You have to have your command check, your command, your plugin script set up to actually do that and flip it around for those purposes. And when it runs, you can see Google's been having fun. The last time at 1742 UTC, which was about 1142 for my host history, it took 20 hops. 5 minutes before that, it took 26. Somebody's having fun with BGP on the internet today. So it gives neat things to watch. I think that's about all. Let's go back to here. Yeah. I've got some resources in here, some plugins. Somebody else's presentation who did this 10 years ago at the Nagios conference that I found. And one of our employees last week posted a link to this guy's plugin repository on GitHub. And in that repository is something like 450 various plugins that he's written to check various things, including but not limited to, I'm sure, yeah, how many hops to an internet-enabled toaster? Because we all have one of those in our kitchens. Yeah. If you can get to it, you can, you can pay it. You can check it for. That didn't go off the slideshow. You can monitor it with Nagios, which is what one of the really cool things about this product is. I will be taking this and putting that my script up into a repo on Git. I will put the slideshow up to it and send that out to you guys. Any big questions for me? Cool. Yeah, again, if you can code it, if you, I'm going to date myself here, but if you've seen Rocky Horror Picture Show, don't dream it, be it. Yeah, don't dream it, code it, monitor it. Well, good. Sweet. Thanks for coming.